use turpenoid next week when we're going to paint again?
Possibly. Well, you need the turpenoid to clean the brushes.
Yeah. No, the gooey liquid that you use.
The gooey liquid, the Liquin, this stuff? Okay, sorry, don't do this. You know your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna need that every week, said the teacher with a paintbrush in his mouth. Don't ever do that.
Why?
Because there might be paint on it, and then you get paint in your mouth. I mean, can't be good for you, right? You know. There are definitely things that fall into the category of do as I say, not as I do, just for, safety reasons. So okay, that looks okay for now. And you know what? I'm like, okay, I'm going from a dark blue to a medium blue to a light blue. The brown's still showing through, but at least I get an idea of what I'm doing. And this white is really bugging me. Okay, so this is a thing to change. One thing that's really bugging me is, I like most of these blues, this little white streak right here, it's making me crazy. And I can't paint it out, because if I try to, it's just going to push the paint around because it's all wet. So I'll just take the rag and there, and see, because your underpainting's dry, everything's fine. So you just take that off, you're good to go. It's like, that didn't look good. So if you want, again, I will say this to you guys over and over. The great thing about painting, just the act of painting, is that if you don't like something, you can change it. You can either wipe it down. Still too white. Bad teacher. Okay. I showed some of you guys this the other day, by the way. Instead of I'm doing this, painting like I'm holding a pen or a pencil. If you're trying to just lay it down, hold the brush like this way, like overhand. Instead of like a pen, hold it like this, and gently drag the paint like that. See what I'm doing? There that's so much better. Now I'm happy, teacher. There's still too much white in there, but that's better. Like that. And again, I'm not worried about detail. I'm just trying to block out the areas that I'm seeing in here that match up. There's like a little blue spot that's right near the stage roof. Blue spot here. There's another spot up here. I'm also using it to show off the branches of the tree, because you can see how the sky comes up against the branches that way. So it's a good way of accentuating, the tree part. Like that. Like that. I think that's all I'm going to do for the blue for now. Like if I were doing this really for reals, I would probably keep working on it a little bit more, but I don't want to bore you with blue. So that's the background, right? That's the sky. The next thing I would want to do is the stage. Now the stage, in my example, has this really complex graphic design on it, and it's like pink, and green and yellow, and it's really pretty, but it's super detaily. So I'm not going to worry about that. That's something I'm going to put in at the end. I'm going to do the detail of the stage at the very end. So for now, I'll just put in some white, just as a background. And I want it to be, this is a good example of the sky. I said, eventually I want to layer it so it's more opaque. I don't want to see that brown coming through the sky. I want it to be a blue sky like this sky. But for this, I actually don't want it to be white. I don't want it to look like a bright, shiny piece of paper. I might want it to have this kind of brownish tone, because it isn't perfectly white. So I'm going to lay this in somewhat transparently and just leave it alone. Boom, like that. Done, right? Same thing for this side of the stage where there's also a little white. So I'm just going to lay that in. And the great thing is when you do it transparently, all that work that you put in doing the underpainting, you can still see this plant, right? So it's like I'm putting the white in, which makes it look a little more towards what I want it to look like in a final painting, but I didn't lose that initial drawing, so I know that that plant is still there, and I can do that later. So that's one of the nice things about transparency. And again, see, I'm doing the overhand thing like that just to lay the paint down a little thicker. That's good. What else is white in here? Okay, there's some other stuff. This is what painting also is good for. I just left it out. There were all these other, this is the soundboard with a little, whoops, that's me. That's not right. Ah, where do we go?
Other way.
Yeah, other way in a big way. Hang on. That's Atomic Blonde for another class. There we go. So there's all these other tints and stuff. And this is, again, when you're working from an image, some of you guys did this, like where you're painting like people in the surf, okay? And it's like you can choose to leave them in or take them out. It's like there's all this detail, and to me, it's distracting as far as the painting goes. It was really there, you know, these little tents and stuff, but I don't want that in there. It's just too distracting. I want the focus to be on the stage, the trees, and where people congregate. The umbrellas and this weird little sawhorse thing that you could put your drinks on, and the fence. So I'll just put a little white thing there because that was like the tent, so I'll just put that there for now. Maybe I'll cover it up. So 2 layers, background, medium ground. I'm looking at this going, what do I want to do for the back of that? Probably a little more like white, maybe a little bit of blue in it, like this, you know, behind the lights. So now I'm just like dabbing a little bit of color just to get a sense of that. Again, keep it pretty transparent because I want to make sure I don't lose all those wonderful drawing things. And for example, like here I am doing this, I'm like, yeah, I put that on a little too thick. You know, wipe that shit down. There we go. Now I can still see. These are all the speakers and the things that make the lights work. Okay. Stuff like that. So the stage is kind of like this. This is gray. You know, these are the big speakers. Now, how do I make black?
Dark blue and brown.
So clean my brush to get all this blue and white crap out. Okay, now I'm going to mix up a little painter's black, or it's also called Payne's gray, just so you know. So this is here's the brown. Whoops, wrong. That's the magenta, sorry. Oh, this is a good point. Sometimes when the colors, oil paints, they're so dense that when they come out of the tube like this, they're really dark. And literally, I went for purple, and I'm looking for brown. I'm like, they look the same to me. So if it helps, take a little bit of the white and just add some here so you can see, oh, oops, that's purple. Take a little of it here. It's like, oh, that's brown. You know, oh, that's green. Whew. Okay, didn't screw that up. So now I know where the colors are. So if in case the colors are so dark that you can't tell, add a little bit of white on your palette, and that way you can know what's what. Okay, so again, clean brush. Like that. So we go back to the brown. Take a little bit of brown here. Take a little bit of blue here. And you're like, oh, he's putting the brown with the blue. Like, so what? It's like, yeah, really, it's like, you can always, again, you're not finishing the painting right now. You're just getting the color laid in so you get an idea of what the thing is going to start to really look like. Not just a sepia tone image, but what it's really going to look like when you're done. So I'm going to mix these guys. So I've got some blue, I've got some brown. Now what happens when I add the white? Oops. See, it looks more like a gray, right? So it's a little warm gray. But it doesn't look brown and it doesn't look blue. See? So da-da. Here, I'll put a little more in there. There. There you go. So it's not a perfect gray, but it's a slightly warm gray. There's a little brown in it. So maybe I'll just add a little bit more blue. There you go. Yeah, that's pretty close to a gray. So I'll take this gray, and that's what these giant, you know, this is where the huge speakers are. Actually, no, I'm sorry, those aren't the speakers. These are the video projection things. So you can see Iggy Pop much bigger than anybody should ever have to look at Iggy Pop, because that son of a bitch is ugly. He's a great performer, but damn, he's old. He's older than I am. Better looking, though. That guy works out. He swears more than I do, too. He's in between every song, it's like, fuck, fucking fuck. It's like, okay, whatever, dude. Really, it was like, come on, Iggy, I get it. You were a punk rocker. It's okay. Like, you don't have to do that. So see, look at that. Nice gray, right? Not bad, huh? Like right out of the tube gray. Just by mixing blue and brown. So there you go. Like I said, it's a little warmer, so I've got those guys. Now, the last thing I'm going to do, actually, and I'll just do this really fast. I'm cheating. I'm just jumping ahead for the sake of the demo. But, you know, the fence is pretty bright, okay? The fence is really bright because the sunlight was hitting it directly the way it's hitting the stage. So I'm just going to lay that in just for demo purposes. Normally, I'd be a little more uptight and rigid, you know, like that. And then you have this really cool, this is great when you can do like shadows and stuff. So I'm looking at the shadows here, it's like boom, 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 boom. This is very impressionistic, this is very Monet. But I'm trying to create this fairly realistic, you know. What movie are you watching today? I love she always calls me sir. Why do you always call me sir? It's so polite.
I have a lot of high respect for you.
I appreciate that. Isn't that sweet? And again, see, I'm painting right over these umbrella posts because I can still see them. So it's like I can come back in and fix them later. Maybe I'll do a little bit more of this. Okay, where is my blue here? Make a nice gray for this part. Now, this is just going to be has not really anything to do with the demo, but just a painting tip in terms of color. When you are painting a shadow, okay, this is a good lesson. I'm painting it gray, okay? Are shadows really gray? No, they are not. Shadows actually are the absence of direct sunlight. So when you get direct